Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Deepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. My name is Eric, and I am pastor of the Village Church in Tucson, Arizona. And across from me is my good Mike friend, and also other categories of friend. You got a few other categories.
Wow. Maybe we should clarify these categories.
Yeah, we should. But it is Andy Littleton, pastor of Mission Church.
I'm your micro-friend.
Micro-friend, yes. Yeah. You're also my only Cubs fan friend.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that your life is vastly improved for that.
It is.
Yeah. Today's the first day of spring training, Eric. So
yeah. So
we went on a real deep dive into the existence of evil, which, it was moderating to my general excitement about the first day of spring training.
Yeah.
It added a needed corrective to how I was feeling today.
Yeah. Funny story. I lived in Indiana.
Oh.
In Winona Lake for a year and a half. And, it's a basketball state.
Yeah.
But there is, because it's so close to Chicago, you had to decide who you were for.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm a White Sox fan.
Oh, well, that's fine. Good luck this year.
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing about them because I stopped being one after the 6th.
2 years ago, they broke a record.
Oh, what was that? The most losses
ever.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So I guess the curse of the Cubs got passed over to them.
Yeah, something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, guys. There's no baseball in the upcoming conversation.
No, so not at all.
Enjoy it.
Anyway, thanks, man. I was second guessing myself.
Check.
I was second guessing myself.
Well, you do that a lot. We are now live.
And I'm second guessing being a part of this podcast.
You should. I'm so excited about possibilities I heard.
Possibilities?
That you texted me about.
Oh, the question we got.
Well, not that one. The other possibility before that.
Oh, well, I think it's more than a possibility.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's going to happen.
It is? Do you know what date?
No. So let's keep that under wraps.
We're keeping it under wraps. There's a cool under wraps thing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited in general, but I'm especially excited for you. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm nervous.
Eric. Don't be too nervous. Okay.
I should be nervous.
Maybe you should be nervous.
Yes, I should.
So, and you should be nervous about Christian's question.
Not really.
Here is...
I read it multiple times, but yes, you should read it out loud.
Yeah. So, in a conversation about cancer, Christian, who I love and care about very much, had a conversation about whether or not God created cancer. And that starts making you think about the creation of bad things, if God is good, how did cancer, pain, evil come to exist?
Sure.
How does the fall play into this? What's God's role? Did good and evil exist before the creation of the world?
Yes. I mean, no, not yes. This is the question.
This is the question.
Yeah.
Satan's fall as prior to the creation of the universe.
And
then he acknowledges the probably unanswerability of some of this, but is curious if we would speak to those questions. So, there you go.
So we can start with you, theoretically, are more qualified to answer this question than I am, because you have the letters after your name.
Oh wow.
But I also think...
That's such a seep and burn.
It was a seep and burn. But also, on top of that, you know how many people have listened who are much smarter than us try to answer these questions?
Oh, of course.
Right. So we can give it our old college try, and as pastors, we should have thought through some of it, and hopefully we've read Augustine at some level, so we know some
Well, part
or
of
Irenaeus and his thinking.
yeah, sure. I mean, part of the deal, of course. I do have my thoughts. I've thought about this. When I got that question, Christian, I thought, I remember. Not that I don't wrestle with that now. I wrestle with a lot of things related to that, but I remember wrestling with that specific question, and talking to a pastor about it when I was younger, and so yeah, I get that, the question and the power of that line of thought, and especially he was talking about talking to non-Christians about it. I think that's a genuine, as a Christian, it comes up. I have it presented to me by people who are trying to figure out faith. So I think it matters. Yeah. And it does. So I have my philosophical, meandering thoughts. Sure. I have read some of others. Some are going to follow others, but are more the ones that I have landed on more myself. But I don't know. I'll say, and I think you probably would experience this too, the longer I've really walked with people, getting this figured out isn't as important in the day-to-day walking through it than I used to think it was. Yeah. But people still have the question, so it matters.
Yeah, and I think it probably informs a lot of those other things.
I think your thoughts on it do shape how you respond. Yeah.
So I guess to dive right in so that our listeners aren't like, okay, hey, like, where are we going to go with all this? Let's just dive in, and let's just kind of start with maybe your framework for understanding, like, how do you begin to like build out your understanding of this? And
okay, so here's and this is kind of what I presented to a pastor a long time ago, where my thought was at, and this was pre-letters behind my name, Eric.
I was only giving you a hard time.
I know.
I'm sorry. I repent of this.
But I still sort of sit where I landed a long time ago.
Okay.
And that is this. I think, and am most comfortable thinking, that the existence of evil did not need to be created, nor was it, because it is an oppositional reality. It is an antithesis. That's a little bit of a Dutch Kuyperian word, but I don't mean it in that. That's a tradition of Neo-Calvinism, but I don't mean it in that sense exactly. I mean that when something is good, anything that is not that is not good. You don't need to. It is created by the existence of the good, but it is uncreated. It exists as a oppositional reality. So truth and falsehood. Mm-hmm. If I tell a truth, its opposite or a distortion of it is what it is because the truth is what it is.
Right.
So that's my first kind of block, is that so the existence of goodness in God and truth and beauty and everything that comes from that, love, necessitate that anything oppositional is evil.
Right. I like that. It's good.
All right. Any further meanderings of your that's kind of, I think, premise one.
Yeah. I think I start with the idea that God is good and that God is love and that God is creative. And so when God created those things, he built a very dynamic system. And in order to have a dynamic system that has any meaning to it, it has to have all of what you just talked about. Like, you can't have a dynamic system meaning one that's evolving, changing, adapting. You can't have that. And have it always there never be any possibility for distortion, right? I mean, or to move off the course of God. Like, how do you define good without?
Yeah,
it's
opposite.
It's opposite, so to speak. But it's also not relational if you don't do that, right? Because people have to choose things, right? You have to make a choice.
So that gets into one of the next kind of philosophical problems. So we'll go with the garden story.
Sure.
And this is sort of where I went after my first premise.
Yeah.
Which was, okay, it can exist, but couldn't God block access to it?
Sure.
Why make it accessible, right? So if you look at the story in the garden, there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So this is a simplistic way of putting it, but I think it's helpful. Why place the option before the people?
Right.
Why put it there? And why allow a tempting voice to enter into the story?
Yeah. Why let the dragon into the nursery, so to speak.
Yeah. And this gets, and I'll just name right now that this gets into waters that theologians care about very much and disagree upon very much and can get very concerned about. So just to say that like this is highly contested stuff because it gets at questions of free will. It gets at questions of the origin of evil in the world that you do want to be careful with.
Yeah.
So, but so you were talking about that relational aspect of choice, and I see that too. And I would add another layer. This is where maybe my premise two, big premise two is, which is that there are elements of the goodness of God that can only be known in relationship to the fall. There are elements of the beauty of God that can only be known in relationship to a failed image bearer. And I know this is not everybody agrees with me on this, but I would say I think when Peter talks about the things into which angels long to look in his letter, he is talking about the mercy, grace, and redemption of Christ that a fall or a being like an angelic being, as mysterious as that has seen the face of God, is not that knows who they might rebel against, is unable to access. It's it's a strange thing to say this, but a benefit we have is our what we don't know.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't know who we spurn in God enough,
right,
makes us able to be redeemed uniquely. And so, since God is merciful, gracious, and redemptive, my belief, where I land, is that there is that is part of the story that needed to be told, that God, because those things are so good and so beautiful, they needed to be seen. And so that is why he created us in a veiled state where we do not see him as the angels do. Because even the garden is a temple figure in like ancient Near Eastern literature and in the Bible. Like, these people weren't just living in God's house all day. They could visit. They could encounter him, and then they would go into all the world and preach the gospel.
So I've always thought of this as, before God creates humans or the earth, before he decides to step in a distinctly relational way by creating people who image him.
Yeah.
He holds evil at bay, in a sense. He holds it in space.
Yeah.
And as soon as he decides to allow his own creativity to burst onto the scene and put himself there, and he puts that tree there, like he is giving evil the ability to infect everything.
Yeah.
And he's allowing his image bearers to be the people who can engage good and evil and enter into all of that.
And that's hard for us, and it is, because it means we become vulnerable to sickness, pain, and death. I mean, for him to put the tree there and give us that choice. I mean, for the work of Christ to be found, known at the foundation of the world, seems to, it's not like God was put us there and went, what have I done? They're giving in.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we didn't choose. It doesn't mean we weren't susceptible to judgment. We did.
I also don't think we say, well, why did God do that? I don't think God had as much as God doesn't have a choice because he binds himself by his own creativity. He has to put that tree there.
Sure.
And he has to begin this journey that he wants. This is a whole creative expression of himself.
And that's interesting. You're taking the creative expression side. I've heard C.S. Lewis, or read C.S. Lewis, take the free will side, that it's necessary for love to be reciprocal, for the free choice to be there. And by free choice, we don't need to mean that is opposed to the sovereignty of God. That's a misunderstanding. Like, even people who believe in a sovereign God believe in the freedom of the will. Even good hardcore Calvinists believe in what they call first and second causes, and that's a rabbit trail. Right. But I don't mean to make those oppositional, though. So that's another angle, and then the angle I'm coming at is the sides of God. You're talking about the creativity, but I'm talking about attributes and character traits that must be exhibited for God to be God.
Yeah. Well, and I think because when I was thinking about the cancer idea. And I was thinking God designed cells, and they are in a creative expression of him, and cells do everything, and they have intention. God doesn't, nothing God did in creation was without intention. Yeah. But it's always butted up against something. Everything can have a distortion. Yep. And that is the free will. That is the opportunity in which God gives Adam and Eve to determine at some point. I think when I think about this, for me, I'm like, okay, these are all wonderful things. What I do know to be true is that when God looked at this process, however his sovereign will, works within all of it, he's not morally culpable, but sovereignly over however you want to do all those things. He knew that he was going to become fully his creation and fully himself and infect it.
Yep.
And so
himself.
Yes. And it.
Yes.
Right. So sin has infected, and if you think of it as an infection in a body, Jesus enters in, and presents love at its highest demonstration and infects it. Yeah. Right. Because if you look at
It's like a cellular therapy where the new cells are introduced into the cells that are going to bring health again, right?
Yeah. Well, if one of my favorite studies, go through the synoptics in particular, but you can do this in John too. Look at who's infecting who. There are all these infected and infecting diseases that Jesus infects. Yeah. And I think that's what happens, is that the creator steps back into his creation, in full-on ownership, and reinfects it with his glory.
Well, and it's also critical to note that from the foundation of the world, the restoration of the cosmos is the plan. And so that's another. Without that, if the move is primarily that God allows evil in the world and it all spirals down and we suffer and then, hopefully some people don't go to hell, and that's the big story. If that's how the story ends, and I know you could tell it better than that, but if that's how I'm
Sure.
just saying that does feel
Sure.
really like a letdown. If, though, as you're pointing out, the story is the infections of sin, including all cancerous, degenerative elements that have gotten into creation, right? If God himself knew he would step in and be cursed by them and would reinfect the world with righteousness and goodness and grace, and would then bring redemption through the story and actually remove the curse from creation, and that part of our eternal existence would be seeing the power of God, the sacrificial nature of God, the love of God through that story that we could not have seen, would not have seen. That is it doesn't make it not suffering. It doesn't make it not lamentable. It doesn't make it not a curse. It doesn't make it something you should just say, oh, well, God will come back. It'll all be fixed. I mean, it's something to be mourned, and it is suffering. But the full movement of that story to redemption should change our experience of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I think that when I think about cancer, because this is the big one, did God create cancer? And you could say, well, no, he didn't create cancer. In the sense that he did not intentionally sit down and say, I wanted to design a disease that will cripple and destroy people and kill them.
Right. It's cancer exists in opposition to life.
Right. It is the rust on metal.
Yeah.
So to speak. Right. I mean, and it is.
It's a corrosive effect on something good.
Yeah. Cells are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that's part of the power of being a follower of Jesus now is we can't say, no, God never created this. And it's not about even did we create it in a sense. It's about
like we fell and it's our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that gives us more power than the scriptures do.
Yeah.
We can't make cells rebel.
Right. But what's interesting is after Jesus, we do get the power to declare God's authority over distorted cells.
Yeah.
And that what the distortion meant for evil, God will use for good.
Yeah.
It might mean suffering in a fallen world. But I think there's all these complex layers that we can float it all the way back to Genesis. But even, yes, we have the fall and we have the curses, right? But even inside the garden, you have, before we eat from the knowledge of good and evil, you have something happening that isn't, at least you can infer, that isn't good.
Yeah.
And that is that somehow there's some communication problems between Adam and Eve as to the regards of the tree.
Yep.
Like some kind of misinformation. Either Eve listened to God and filtered it wrong, or Adam didn't tell her, or Adam filtered it wrong and told Eve.
Yeah.
However that happened, some distortion was already happening within the garden.
Yes.
It was not a garden expulsion.
Yeah.
But it was certainly, we're not dealing with like floating Adam and Eve with just perfect life, and then they saw the tree, and
that's a great point that I've thought about. I wasn't thinking about today though, is that we often make the moment of the fall like the bite into what I think was a pomegranate. If you want to get real theologically spicy.
She must have had to really work through getting to those seeds.
Well, actually, isn't that an interesting theological thought though, that like if it's an apple, right? Yeah, that's the easiest thing to bite into. If it's a pomegranate, you have to contemplate what you are doing. Why do I think it's a pomegranate? Because the the pomegranate's prominent in temple
Yes.
iconography,
Yes,
and
yes.
since the temple is patterned after the garden and creation, it's anyway. So the that's when we think of the fall, but
Sure.
that came after all of the lines of thought that were distorted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we think of, were Adam and Eve perfect until that moment?
Yeah.
That's an interesting
It
question.
is
If you're
interesting.
perfect, how do you even get there?
Right. There was just one law,
Yeah.
right? One rule.
Yeah, I would say there were creation ordinances.
There are creation ordinances, but there was one thou shalt not.
Sure. One inhibition.
Inhibition, yes.
Yeah. But on the so speaking of the good and the distortion of the good, on the flip side of every creation ordinance is a thou shalt not. So if you are to marry and rest and fill the earth and all these things, any opposition to cultivating the garden,
Right.
caring for it,
Right.
would become evil.
Right. So I'm thinking like you hold like maybe to a more, like just to go back to your original, a little bit more of an Augustinian kind of thing of like the opposite. Like to have good, you have to have evil. To have, like, yours is a little bit more nuanced.
I don't
mind,
think
but-
I'd quite put it that way. I know what you mean, and I'm not. Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Whereas
to some degree.
like there's the other ones like more about distortion of, tends to be maybe in more of the Orthodox world.
I'm talking more about
power.
definitionally, like
Sure.
by the existence of good, evil is definitionally its opposite.
Yeah.
Less of a yin and yang, like you have to have. I mean, I can see that, like, without darkness, what is light or whatever. But I also think light is light obliterated darkness, or is darkness the shading of light? That I think light is primary. I think the good is primary,
Sure.
and the evil is the covering of it, or the distortion of it, or the infection of it.
Sure.
So I think that does matter.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be in the camp that would say you have to have the one to have the other.
Right.
I think the
Right.
one, you can learn a lot about the one because of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess I mean, when I try to process some of this, I always try to process it through the lens that it seems to me when reading scripture that almost everything God does is relationally driven.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, choice is so highly important to having relationship. And even the angels have at least some element of choice,
Yes.
an allegiance choice.
And it is interesting to, going back to that verse in Peter, that there's not that we're aware of, a redemption path for a being that stands before the face of God.
Yeah.
When they rebel,
Yeah.
which is, I think, teaches us something.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Now this gets into some parts where people start going, oh, okay, Christianity and the it's interesting because the idea of a personal relational God, I don't hear as much complaint about that, but a personal relational evil, demons,
Mm-hmm.
an enemy of our souls,
Right.
deceivers,
Mhm.
Satan, right?
Mhm.
Like, maybe we should. Christian mentioned that,
Right.
the fall being before creation, but yeah,
Did it happen before creation?
I was going to say that
it's hard to tell.
it is, and there are. We got into this at our men's breakfast last week. Our experience of time and wanting to put things on a linear
Sure.
timeline, and I brought up John's vision in Revelation that showed this grand story of history right before his eyes that included things that were not yet to come, but absolutely included things that had already been. And I said, so how did he when he saw it, was he seeing things that were over and things that weren't happening yet? or was he seen into a realm in which they are all present? Now, that's mind-bending. The quantum physicists have things to say about that. I don't know my physics on that, right? But the Bible doesn't. There's a very rationalist thing we do where we want to put it all in order. Which thing happened first that caused the next?
Yeah, we want to be linear.
We want to be linear, and I don't know that that's what we're being given.
No.
Yeah.
And in fact, the whole Bible has sort of this beginning, and then obviously its middle, and then Revelation actually is the beginning again. It's very Jewish. There's no ending.
Yeah.
But
I saw Satan falling from heaven. What an interesting statement by a person in time and space.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Paul does tell us in Ephesians that we sit in chapter 1. We are seated with Christ in the heavenly realms.
Like, really?
And we have in Hebrews the great cloud of witnesses. And if they are witnessing us from the throne room of God, what does that mean? Well, there is this time is suspended in a way that is not for us. And yet God decided to put himself in the timeline for a while.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
He bound himself at least up to the resurrection,
or the ascension, and an ascension is interesting because, and we talked about this at the men's breakfast. The way I always imagined the ascension was something like a rocket launch of a human body, right? That Jesus was standing among them, and then he was like.
Unfortunately, I've seen too many of the pictures. He's just kind of floating.
He's a Zen rocket.
Rocket,
he's like, and and. Okay, I don't know but, where was he going? What is up on a spherical planet? That's not the point. Even if they saw him rise from the earth or something, where he's going is to the right hand of the Father. He's going to the place of power and authority in heavenly places, which is not a location in space. It is a reality. That breaks in. So when Jesus enters into the creation, is born, he breaks into our time and space. And then at the ascension, he is gone. But he also said, I'm with you. So layers of reality, right? Like that. Well, that's all. Yeah.
And Paul tells us in Acts 17, he tells the Athenians, like, that God has not been that far from you ever, right? That you can just reach out.
Yes.
So there's this sense that God's dimension, though we call it heavenly, is because earth and heaven are our two dimensions that we see with our eyes. That's all. We're not talking about the actual things that are going on. And the heavenly dimension is just up against this dimension.
Getting back to that garden,
or even mixed into it.
Getting back to that garden, where is it? People have looked for it.
Sure.
And if we're thinking time and space, then either the story's bogus or there's a really pretty garden that just no one's ever found because you can't, because it's guarded. Yeah. Or dimensionally, it's always been and always will be. And when the earth is purified of the infections, we'll walk with God there.
Yeah.
And that's that dimensional thinking solves those problems. And it also, by the way, our modern science is kind of opening it's not kind of, it's saying that's not as impossible as you thought, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not your science guy.
Sure.
But it's cool it's nice to hear from modern science that our rational linear thinking was too simple.
Yeah. So, we haven't even jumped into, we both just kind of dived out of the philosophy section and just dived into the text. But, the counsel of God is at play in the beginnings of all of this. And so I think
Spirit
for me,
like who's talking to who?
Yeah, and then when you read the first few chapters of Genesis, there is definitely things going on that we don't fully understand. the people writing it have a full understanding of what's happening. They are making references that everybody has a narrative for. I guess the thing is, the part where I kind of want to try to answer these questions of like, well, did God create cancer? Or all that. In some ways, all I want to say is like, man, that is really that's making God real simple.
Yeah.
I mean, is God sovereign over cancer? Yes. Did God create cancer? No. Okay. Now let's talk about the more complex things that are happening here, because it's kind of crazy where we live and what we are. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's not I don't think you can give a satisfying answer to any of this.
No. Well, and especially not when someone's dying of cancer.
Right.
Which
it's brutal.
To anyone who might be hearing this and thinking, oh, this is what I'll explain to my buddy's cousin. Please don't.
Yeah.
There was a tragic incident in our church recently. And I had a lot of thoughts that I just was like, no, I'm just going to hear it. Now, then one of the people involved brought up kind of a philosophical question that I think they were trying to get at some comfort through.
Mm-hmm.
And I let them share all of that. And I tried to distill just one thing that brought them comfort from it and say, you can be comforted by that. And just let that be it. And, working out these things philosophically when somebody's suffering is not the main point. But sometimes those lines of thought can lead to comfort. So
I mean, I think, like, as I was thinking about cancer, like, I was thinking of Tim Keller quote when he was in the throes of his pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And he was talking to another Christian who had pancreatic cancer. And he said, I hate it, and it's the worst thing that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I'm going to die of it. But I would never, ever want it to not happen to me, because I don't want to go back to the prayer life I had before.
Yeah, right. I remember that, yeah.
And I think there's something deeply lovely and exciting about that, and also just relatively disturbing, because it seems that the meaning and understanding of cancer and God's rule over it is best known by those who have it, and lay themselves at the feet of God.
Well, it begs the question, right? Like, what is life for?
Yeah.
When you're facing the brokenness within it, you're most attuned with what it is ultimately for.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, like,
and does God not? Did God not have a hand in that as well?
Yeah. And there's something, like, so beautifully powerful, though. Like, I guess why I kept getting at the creation thing is that I think God, it's not that he wound up the clock. He designed this beautifully intricate and complex system and brought his image into it and allowed it to develop itself and choose relationship with him or choose to reject him. And then he pursued it and came to it and inserted himself into it. And I think, and so he's in the suffering always with us.
Yeah.
And maybe you can say, well, hey, why did you have to build the whole system anyway? Couldn't you just forgot about us? But there's something so deeply relational about God that you can tell it just propels him into the creating us. And so for me, I'm like, I don't know. The answer really to all these things, it's not that I don't know. I can give you I think what is a satisfying answer, but it's still just about relationship with God.
Yeah, and it's really important to say, like, even in the whole idea of there being a God and us being an image bearer, that this is us grasping. And in fact, honestly, I'll be really disappointed if I stand before God someday and God says, Andy, you figured it out.
You figured it out, Andy.
You know all the thoughts you had?
They were it.
They were it. And
everybody missed the boat.
And if there was one other being that could have been God, it would have been you, buddy. You nailed it. I expect to be humbled to the core that my thoughts were so much lower than his thoughts. That's so. There's that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. These are hard choices, and when I sit at the bedside of people, who are suffering, and I pray over them, I have a comfort in knowing that God's authority is over everything. And I don't feel angry because he didn't stop these things. I want him to stop them.
Yeah.
But there is kind of a, I'm comfortable with the sovereign rule of God. I'm comfortable with him being good and this world not being good, and he put himself under it and suffered it.
The fact that he entered it and experienced it is a unique comfort. Yeah,
it is.
Well, Christian, I would assume you were
going, man, that was not what I wanted.
I wanted so much more than that, and yeah, me too. But no, good questions. I think there is a period in life where you must wrestle with this, and in a way, the wrestling match should end with a bit of a Job-like experience where you don't get necessarily all the answers you wanted, but you get the answer that God is God.
Yeah.
So.
There's not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would say that you can conclude in all of this that God is good.
Yeah.
That's what we can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think pretty confidently.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Christian, that was a great question. Anybody else got one? faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com, or text us through the podcast app, or tell Eric, or email.
Yeah.
Andy.
I would like to say that I thought it was funny last time we spoke on elders.
Yeah.
And then the next day it came across my email was the Gospel Coalition. There was an article on elders.
Wow.
And I was like, huh.
You know what it was? Is they were like, we're going to release something right after them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it was. They were like, those guys are on to something.
They're on to something.
We need to correct them.
We need to give a follow-up to that. Well, thanks, Gospel Coalition. Anyway, yeah, good to hear from you. Give us a rating. Give us 5-star ratings are great. If you share a podcast, that is absolutely helpful for building an audience for this, which, it's not like we're making a bunch of money, but the more people that listen, the more we feel like there's a point to talking on this microphone. And ultimately, we think these are good conversations. And so invite people to the table with us. It would mean a lot.
Yeah.
And
you're supporting our relationship because it's mainly on these mics.
Yeah. If this podcast drops too much, Eric and I won't hang out as much. That really is it.
Yeah. So
that's really it.
We'll hang out more.
The more you listen and share, the more we hang out.
The more we hang out.
So thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.